it's really building on how us as a people need to really make a connection to our ancestors, right? And I think it's very important as a people, because what has happened to us as a people is we have this disconnect with our deities, our relatives on the other side, our ancestors, all the way to Partner God, right? Which are our overseers. And what has happened, because the Caucasian, he understands, or the evil one understands, that disconnect a people from their bloodline or their ancestors, then you can seize power from them, because they have no help, they have no guidance, they have no protection. So now I can abuse these people. And that's what has happened to us as a people, because if you all know, of course, you're familiar with slavery and all that type of stuff. And what happened to us was they took away our name, our languages, our culture, our deities, the connection to the spirit realm, understand, to our bloodline. And that's how they were able to actually capture us and do what they've done to us even till this day. Because most of our people are still calling on deities outside of themselves. Right? God, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, all these different deities our people are calling on. And it just so happens that anytime anything happens as far as atrocities happen, our people tend to want to call on God, pick up a candle, right? Call on God, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh. And this deity seems to not help nor hinder the abuse that's been going on for hundreds of years. You understand me? Which means we're not connected to them, because we've been calling on them for so long. You know, our people have been calling on Jesus hundreds of years. You understand me? Allah hundreds of years. You understand me? So, and it just so happened that we're going through the same abuse. So there is an issue here, right? And the issue is, if we're calling on in mass, we're talking about now. Our people call on Jesus in the millions.
Yes.
And still we're going through what we're going through. Like, he not hearing us yet? You understand me? Allah, we got into Islam, we started doing the same thing in Islam, because we started to realize, like back in the time of Elijah Muhammad, Ali, you know, when them guys came around, that, hey, Jesus, Christianity is doing nothing. So let me get into Islam now, right? Because we thought Islam was our way. And come to find out, that's another infiltration on us as a people from connecting to our ancestors. So they gave us, of course, God, Yahweh, Jehovah, and then when we shun that, then Allah comes in. This is all very well planned out. Yeah, it's not by accident that our people are gearing towards Islam. That's not an accident. That's by design.
It's really crazy you say that, because it's like after, you know, worshiping Jesus, then you go to Allah, but it's like stronger.
Right,
like,
right. Because they noticed they were losing a hold on us with the Christianity. So they brought in another form of Christianity, right? And then they brought it from across seas now, right? So now that was a plan to bring Islam here in order to infiltrate the community.
What?
You understand me? And that's kind of what that was. And Dr. Yo, he touches on that in Sheikh Dawood, book Farad, Muhammad versus Sheikh Dawood. I believe that's the name of it. It's one of those books that's probably not even in here right now.
And then
older book. He touches on the infiltration of Islam, right? But the thing is, with us as a people, we're constantly calling on these deities, and nothing seems to happen in our favor, right? And there's a reason behind that, because we have no spiritual connect, so we have no help, right? In other words, we should be able to call on our ancestors. I mean, I'm not talking about our ancestors far, like you're talking about Asar, I said. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about grandma.
Yeah.
That I know, she's real. Right? Grandpa, he's real to me. He's on the other side now. I should know and understand that, hey, my connection is to them, immediate relatives that are on the other side. Even if they were here and they were worshiping other deities at that time, once they cross over, they know the truth. Right? Once they cross over to the next side, it's now they know. You understand me? And now they need help to help. Because the way that the spiritual realm works when it comes down to us getting any guidance and assistance is ask, seek, knock. Right? If we don't ask of them, there are rules to the spirit world. If we don't ask of them, they cannot respond. So in other words, grandma is right here waiting for you to say, Grandma, help me. I need your guidance. I need your assistance. But yet we call on Allah, God, Jehovah, we call on everybody else. And grandma is like, okay, when are you going to call on me? so I can act. Because if we don't call on them, they can't respond, right? And that gets into the rules of the spirit realm, right? And that's what that is. If we don't ask of them, they cannot respond to us here. They cannot protect us here because we're caught up in calling on others that don't help nor hinder. And actually, they're the ones that are harming us more. You understand me? So we don't get any kind of help. So I think it's very important, again, that we start to understand these principles, you know, when it comes down to calling on our own deities and how it helps us as a people to move forward and gain the protection and the help that we need, right? And this book kind of touches on that.
Can you show them?
Right.
All right.
Now, any questions before I go on and just read a little bit? Any questions?
I've never got that before. Ask, seek, knock. That's ask. ASK. Ask, seek, knock.
Right, and that gets in, right, ask, seek, knock. Right.
You got that.
Right, and stuff like that. A lot of stuff is like in plain sight, but because again, we needed, again, a being to come from on high, right? The master teacher to come down, because us as a people throughout time, we've always looked at it as though, well, Jesus was back then. They give us the stories, right? Jesus, great man according to them, you know, he did miracles, all this type of stuff. He raised his people up, you know, saved his people from whatever they were going through at that time. But and they say he was God in the flesh, right? And people still worship him today, right? The same thing with Muhammad. Muhammad came with, you know, what it was sent down to him, right? This Quran, as they say, right? But this was a physical human being came, right? Whether he was inspired or not, right? And came to save their people with a message, right? So what happens in our instance today, a lot of times we don't want to accept one that has come in this day and age, I'm talking about right now, right? At the time when we're alive in it. Totally. We want to believe, oh, that was only then. You know, Jesus came then, you know, your Moses came then, saved his people, Noah came, you know, flood and saved his people and stuff like that. But when it comes down to as we all can see, the last days, or what they're saying is the last days, not for us, for them.
For them.
Right? We don't want to accept the fact that we also have a Savior, right? That has come and incarnated in the flesh to save us. It's far-fetched because we don't want to look at another Negro like ourselves in our image and likeness to say, hey, this is God incarnate. We fear saying another man like myself who puts on his pants the same way I do, one leg at a time, is my Savior today. We have a certain fear in us that I ain't worshiping that man. Has nothing to do with worshiping. Right? Has nothing to do with worshiping that man. It has to do with, hey, he has the answers to these questions, man. That's our honor. Let me honor this man because you know what, this man has come and he has given so much information to raise us up out of what we call the muck and mire, right? Out of all the craziness going out there and has enlightened me. I need to ask him some more questions. You know, I need to really watch him. We'll follow Michael Jordan. We're going to follow all these superstars. We're going to follow them. But when it comes down to somebody who's answering all your questions, we tend to shun away from stuff like that because it's like, nah, you're worshiping that man. Look, we got past that. Jesus was honored. They honored a physical person and called him God.
The white version.
And they still believe that today. I never met him. Never seen him in the flesh.
They even
right. They don't know
he was white.
It's in a book. You understand me? So that's how deep the spell is. You know, they'll read a book. They have a book called the Bible, basic information before leaving Earth, right? And they will take this same book, read it, and believe everything that's in the book without question, and worship that man. And nobody says, well, you ought to worship a man that you never saw. Giving him praise, you never met this man, but you just believe stuff, and then when we come with all the inconsistencies, it's like, nah, man, y'all don't know what you're talking about. Jesus is my God, he's my Lord. It's like, okay, but we understand that our relatives went through that time frame of the spell. But when truth comes, false things perish. It's as simple as that. And it's not about just accepting anybody's word, because if y'all are familiar with any of the teachings of Dr. Malachi Z, New York, right, Panababia Nun, you'll know that his motto is, don't believe me, check it out. That's right. You understand me? Anybody comes with that type of a mentality to us, Because we've had a lot of leaders, whether it's a president leader, these are still leaders. You understand me? Whether it's a pastor leader, imam leader, we still needed someone to come that can explain the things for the questions that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the only person that has done that throughout time and proven himself is Dr. Malachi Z, New York. Right? He's the only one that has proven himself. He's talking about not just say it and we believe it. He has proven himself time and time and time again. That he's even sacrificed his own life and freedom to save his people. You know what I'm saying? So again, this book here kind of gets into more about, you know, why it's very important for us to connect with our ancestors. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to read a little bit. Again, unless anybody has a question or interjection, you're good? Yeah? All right, cool. So again, I'm reading from Reflection and Projection, Takros, right? And I'm starting from, it's verse 153. Right, just a few words. And if anybody has any question based on it, that's fine. You can stop me too. Right? So, from 153. Wu Sabat is the science of reality, dealing with Hakakat facts as revealed by Fatir al-Fatar, natural nature. That we can know the right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding, onto overstanding by using sound right reasoning. Sawab Kawan Sawab, truth is truth, fact is fact, real is real. We Musbatu Sabians strive to help all Shakasu people eliminate the lies of their history over the past 6,000 years and awaken people that are lambs for the slaughter by Musyad Mutatalu, extraterrestrials. They think and call God or gods. Their dominion has ended in the year 2000 AD, and extraterrestrials are using viruses, microbes, microorganism, bacterium, and disease to kill all Muhmamu, humans, on this macabre planet. This is their germ warfare now being used the Tapal world over by Adamites, Muadam, who have a covenant with Musyad Mutatalu, extraterrestrials, since Abraham. So of course you all know the stories about Abraham when he made the covenant with this god or this deity, right? You all are familiar with that story? Okay, so here it's more clarity. Because again, if you've read those stories in the Bible, we never got any clarity. He made a covenant or agreement with this God, and this God wanted him to sacrifice his son, and then we overlooked that part, and then, you know, next minute, he allowed him to kill an animal instead of his son, right? But there was an agreement that was made, right, between this deity and Abraham's seed for generations to come, right? That they would have dominion or rulership over the planet. Right, and there was agreement, and that agreement was a covenant of the flesh. Of course, you would know about that, right? So understanding that is how the Adamites, who we call the Caucasian Adamites today, what they did, they kept that covenant in order to stay in power, right? Because this was their deities. This is who they made an agreement with, right? Just another race of beings, extraterrestrials. They made this agreement, and these extraterrestrials gave them technology. Right, made agreements like, hey, it's a flesh covenant now. So what do you think a flesh covenant is? You don't have any ideas?
Human?
Huh?
Human?
Right. It's not just animal flesh, because remember, it's a covenant of the flesh. So flesh, we all have flesh.
Sure.
Right? So it's saying, is it just animal flesh? Or is humans also on that menu?
Human flesh.
Right, human flesh. Right? Because again, remember, he was going to sacrifice his son first. So that was the first request that this deity asked for. It wasn't an animal. There were animals all on the planet. But he was ready and he was willing to sacrifice his little boy. Now, let's think about that. If he was ready to do that, was that the first time the request was made? Or is that something that might have been normal?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
It sounds like it's a normal thing. I got no problem. All right. You know what I mean? Let's make this agreement. You know what I mean? And I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice my son. So it's not the first occasion because it was too normal to do something like that. And then it has things in there that actually proves that. We're not going to get into that. But thinking amongst us, right? The reasoning part now. We say, well, look, couldn't have been just something that he just, all right, I'll accept that. You know what I mean? Had to be the normal behavior of those type of people that they were willing to sacrifice because of these extraterrestrials who have the power that they have, and might have felt fear because this God said, fear me. Why would you fear a God that is loving, kind, all-knowing, and all this? Why would you have to fear that deity? Unless they understood the fear was, if I don't cooperate, make an agreement, that I also will be an avenger, right? Will be food for these deities. That's where the fear comes in. That's why they will say fear God. Why should I have to fear God? That makes no sense, right? So the fear is because they would be eaten, right? So they had to provide now flesh, meat to these extraterrestrials when they came down. Yeah.
How would it, like, who were they being by?
How would they be eaten?
Yeah.
Just like we eat chicken.
Right off the bone.
Right off. Just like we eat chicken. These extraterrestrials, which were reptilians, right? It goes into that, right? Or beings, right? Exactly. So these beings that they made, or Abraham made this covenant with, right? He made a flesh agreement with them to provide, right? It was to provide flesh, meat.